Hello viewers, yes, this is Ranjana ma'am and you are watching yours as well as my channel. So after a long time I'm back again, but after this I will be making videos much more frequently now that the festive season is over, more or less over. So I've been getting a number of requests regarding Act 4 Scene 1 of Merchant of Venice. Yes, I agree that the video which I had uploaded in the initial stages of my channel, so that time exams were very close when I had started my channel. So I had made it in a hurry, honestly. I had tried to be of help. So I had not given line by line explanation. As a result, many of y'all are finding it difficult, and I have got a number of requests that ma'am, please line wise explanation. So here I am. So if you have not subscribed to my channel up till now, please do, and don't forget to press the like button after you have seen the video. So Merchant of Venice, Act 4 Scene 1, it's a very lengthy scene, nearly 500, rather 470 lines. In my book it is so. So it will be in parts, because if I try to make the whole video in one go, then y'all will be equally bored as I will. So I'll try to make it in 3 parts at the most. So today is the first part of Merchant of Venice. So yes students, today is Merchant of Venice Act 4 Scene 1 Part 1. It is a very important scene. Rather, in this scene, the drama reaches its peak. The court scene, the trial scene as we call it. So it reaches its climax here. And Shylock, Antonio, the two parties are both present in the court. The Duke is quite upset because Antonio is a very famous and honorable citizen of Venice. And yet the Duke feels very helpless that he can do nothing to save Antonio. He is trying to do his best. So in this scene, let's start and see what happens. Venice, a court of justice. On a platform there is a great chair of state with 3 lower chairs on either side. Before there are tables for clerks and lawyers. So this is the stage setting. It is not important for us. And now the drama starts. Who are the ones who entered the stage? The Duke, the Magnificos, that means they are the famous notable gentlemen of Venice, Antonio, Bassanio, Graciano, Salerio and others. So all of them, they have come here. Antonio is the accused. He has not been able to fulfill the conditions of the bond. So Shylock has taken his case to court and he wants his pound of flesh. Duke. What is Antonio here? So the Duke is inquiring about Antonio, whether Antonio is present there or not. And what does Antonio say? Ready, so please your grace. So Antonio answers very politely that yes, my lord, I am ready. I am sorry for thee. Thou art come to answer a stony adversary, an inhuman wretch, Incapable of pity, void and empty from any dram of mercy. These are the 4 points. These are the phrases, adjective phrases through which the Duke describes Shylock. So he's telling Antonio that I'm really sorry for you because you have come to answer, or you have to come to face or defend yourself against a stony adversary, stony, hard-hearted adversary, opponent, an inhuman wretch. That means a wretched fellow who is devoid of any human characteristics. Incapable, rather it should be incapable of pity, that means pitiless. Void and empty from any dram of mercy. That means he is merciless. So he is a hard-hearted person. Shylock is described as a hard-hearted person having his heart like that of stone. He has no human qualities. He is an inhuman person. He is pitiless. He is merciless. So what does Antonio answer to this? I have heard your grace hath taken great pains to qualify his rigorous course. But since he stands obdurate, and that no lawful means can carry me out of his envy's reach, I do oppose my patience to his fury, and I am armed to suffer with a quietness of spirit the very tyranny and rage of his. So Antonio, as if, has resigned himself to his fate. Remember, in an earlier scene, he had gone with the jailer to Shylock to request him to be merciful. But Shylock had very sternly told that he is not going to become sentimental and forgive him. So then Antonio had realized that Shylock is in no mood to forgive him. Shylock is in a revengeful mood and he has his reasons. So that is why he has as if accepted his fate. He has resigned himself to his fate. So he tells the Duke that, my lord, I have heard that you have taken a lot of pain to soften the strictness or severity of the case. But since Shylock remains stubborn, he remains obstinate, and there can be no legal manner in which I can escape his malice. There is no legal manner in which I can escape his malice. I am ready to face him patiently. I am ready to face his anger in a patient manner. I have armed myself to face his tyranny and his anger with a quietness of spirit. So he is made himself ready. He has prepared himself to face the tyranny and anger of Shylock with a quietness of spirit, in a quiet manner. Go one and call the Jew into the court. So the Duke orders one of the employees of the court to go and fetch the Jew, Shylock. Today is his day. At this moment at least, he feels so. So he will come with all stubbornness and with all strictness, sternness. Earlier he used to behave in a polite manner. Though he had been insulted several times, he would always behave politely. Why? Because he is a minority in Venice. The Jews are minorities. But today he knows that he might be a minority, but the law is in his side. So today he will come. Yes, nothing to listen to. He is ready at the door. He comes, my lord. So Salerio says, my lord, he is standing at the door and he is coming. Enter Shylock. So the Duke tries to pacify Shylock with his speech, but in vain. He makes an attempt to pacify Shylock, but he doesn't succeed. Make room and let him stand before our face. Yes, so make room, let him stand before our face means let him face us. Shylock, the world thinks, and I think so too, that thou but leadest this fashion of thy malice to the last hour of act. And then it is thought, thou wilt show thy mercy and remorse more strange than is thy apparent cruelty. And where thou now exactest the penalty, which is a pound of this poor merchant's flesh, thou wilt not only lose the forfeiture, but touched with human gentleness and love, forgive a moiety of the principal. High hopes. Actually, the Duke is trying to butter Shylock a little, speak to him in a very polite manner, and trying to show that they have high expectations from him. So Shylock, everyone thinks, and even I am of the same opinion. What? That you will keep up your revengeful spirit till the final stages. And when the time comes for you to cut the pound of flesh, then what will happen? You will suddenly become repentant and merciful. And it will be as unexpected as is this unexpected cruelty. So at this moment your cruelty is unexpected, in the same manner that repentance, remorseful and merciful nature which will come to the front, that will also be equally unexpected. And now you are asking for the penalty, but that time you will not only refuse to accept the forfeiture, but touched with human gentleness and love, you will also forgive a part of the money which he owes you, the principal amount of money, you will forgive a part of it. So that is why I said high hopes. Shylock has come here to take the penalty as well as the principal. And the Duke is telling that your cruelty is unexpected, but we all are of the opinion, everyone, and even I am of the same opinion, that when the time comes for you to cut the pound of flesh, you will suddenly change. How will you behave? You will behave in a merciful and repentant manner, which will be equally unexpected. And at this moment you are demanding your penalty, which is a pound of flesh of this merchant's, from this merchant's body. You will refuse to accept this penalty, and not only that, you will also give up your claim to a part of the principal amount which he owes you. The principal amount is 3,000 ducats. You will also forgive him a part of it. Pound of flesh to forget, you will not take it. You will also forgive one portion of the principal amount of money. That means instead of asking for the 3,000 ducats, you may ask for 2,000 or 1,500 or 1,000. Why? Keeping an eye on his losses. Antonio has suffered severe loss, so much loss that he has been unable to pay the money. So keeping an eye on his losses, you might also forgive him a part of the principal amount which he owes you. And why will you do it? Touched with human gentleness and love. Glancing an eye of pity on his losses that have of late so huddled on his back, enough to press a royal merchant down, and pluck commiseration of his state from brassy bosoms and rough hearts of flame, from stubborn Turks Some people pronounce it Turks because people of Turkey. So, as you wish, Turks or Turks, as you wish. And Tatars, never trained to offices of tender courtesy. We all expect a gentle answer due. So he says that of late, that means in recent times, Antonio has suffered heavy losses. They have become a burden on his back. So much, such a heavy burden that it is enough to press a royal merchant like him down. The burdens are so heavy, the burden of losses on his back, they are so heavy, enough to press a royal merchant like Antonio down. And also draw pity for his condition. So he is in such a condition that it will draw pity from those who are never accustomed, who are never trained in the offices of pity, of mercy. Who are they? Those who have brassy bosoms. That means those who have bosoms or hearts made of brass. That means hard-hearted, metallic, who have no softness in them. But Antonio's condition is such that it will evoke pity from people who are hard-hearted, whose hearts are like flint. So even these type of people will feel pity for Antonio. Flint, stone. So those people whose hearts are like that of stone, even they will feel pity for Antonio. Antonio's condition is such. From stubborn Turks and Tatars, or stubborn Turks and Tatars never trained to offices of tender courtesy, we all expect a gentle answer due. So Antonio's condition will also evoke pity from the hearts of Turks and Tatars who have been never trained to be polite to others, to be merciful to others. Even they will feel human kindness for Antonio. We all expect a gentle answer due. So due, we are expecting a gentle answer from you. That means if the Turks and Tatars, if people having brassy bosoms and hearts of flint, if they can feel pity for Antonio, why can't you? Through these, he is indirectly pressurizing Shylock into becoming merciful towards Antonio. But Shylock is not a person to set foot in their trap. He is clever and he knows his stance. He has already decided what his stance would be. So what does he say? I have possessed your grace of what I purpose. So I have already informed you, my lord, of my inclination, of what I intend to do. I have already told you what my intentions are. And by our holy Sabbath have I sworn to have the due and forfeit of my bond. So I have sworn a divine oath by the Sabbath. Sabbath is actually a holy festival of the Jews. So I have sworn by this Sabbath that I will take the due as well as the penalty incurred by Antonio regarding the bond. Antonio has incurred the penalty because he has failed to keep up to the terms and conditions of the bond. So I will not only have the due but also the forfeiture. I have taken an oath, I have sworn an oath by the Sabbath. So that means there is no way. I have sworn a holy oath, so I am not going to break it for Antonio. If you deny it, if you refuse me my penalty, due and forfeit of my bond, if you refuse it, let the danger light upon your charter and your city's freedom. So he is warning, rather he is threatening the due. He is telling that if you refuse me my penalty, then your city will be in danger. Your city's charter, charter is the rule book. Your city's charter will be in danger. Let the danger light upon your charter and your city's freedom. So your charter and your city's freedom will be endangered if you refuse to give me my due and forfeit. You'll ask me why I rather choose to have a weight of carrion flesh than to receive 3,000 ducats. Yes, you might ask me that Shylock. Actually, Shylock is a very mercenary person, very money-minded person. And why is this Shylock refusing to accept the money? After Antonio had failed to pay the bond, the money, the 3,000 ducats, and Shylock had got him imprisoned, then Antonio's friends and everyone came out to help. They offered Shylock the money, but he is refusing to accept it. So that is what he is saying. You'll ask me why I rather choose to have a weight of carrion flesh than to receive 3,000 ducats. Now there are people who want to offer him 3,000 ducats to get Antonio free, but he has refused it, and he says, no, I will take the penalty. I will go for the pound of flesh. So he is telling the Duke, you might be wondering why I am insisting on my pound of flesh rather than take the 3,000 ducats. I'll not answer that. I'm not going to answer you. That means, yes, I'm under no compulsion to answer you. But I say it is my humor. I say it is my inclination. It is my wish. Is it answered? Have you got your answer? What if my house be troubled by a rat and I be pleased to give 10,000 ducats to have it baked? So suppose my house is being troubled by a rat. A rat is troubling my house, tearing and biting and what should I say, being very troublesome. And in order to get it killed, I pay 10,000 ducats. So what are you answered yet? So have you got your answer? Indirectly, he means that Antonio is spoiling his business and he has used this 3,000 ducats to get rid of Antonio. My house is being troubled by a rat and I pay 10,000 ducats to get it killed. What? Are you answered yet? Have you got your answer? Some men there are love not a gaping pig. Some that are mad if they behold a cat. Some, when they hear the bagpipe, for affection master of passion sways it to the mood of what it likes or loathes. So he says that there are some people, that means different people have different inclinations. Some people, they don't like a gaping pig or an open-mouthed pig. And some people, actually when the pig is roasted and presented at the table, served at the table, some men don't like it open-mouthed. Some men, they have an irritation when they see a cat. And some people, when they hear the sound of the bagpipe, they get irritated. So Shylock says that affection, master of passion, sways it to the mood of what it likes or loathes. So actually it is the personal inclination of a person which governs his passion. My personal inclination governs my passion, and according to it I like or dislike something. It is my personal inclination. I might like ice cream, you might not. So as such, my fondness for ice creams, there might not be a particular reason, but it is my inclination. I like it. You might dislike it, and yet you might find no plausible reason why you dislike ice cream. So your personal inclination governs your passion, and as a result you like or hate something. Now for your answer. As there is no firm reason to be rendered why he cannot abide a gaping pig, Why he a harmless cat, necessary cat? Why he a woolen bagpipe? So, as these people who hate a cat, or someone who hates a gaping pig, or someone who cannot tolerate the sound of the bagpipe, and yet they cannot give any solid reason as to why they hate it. In the same way, and but of force must yield to such inevitable shame as to offend himself being offended. So can I give no reason, nor I will not, more than a lodged hate and certain loathing I bear Antonio, that I follow this, a losing suit against him. Are you answered? So I cannot also give you any particular reason. So a person, when he gets offended by something, like a person gets offended by a cat, and when he is offended, he offends others in the process. Suppose, I'll explain it clearly. Suppose I hate cats. I go to someone's house where the cat is a domestic pet in their house and they are fond of the cat. And the moment I see the cat, oh, take away that cat, I don't like cats. So I am offended on seeing the cat, and then I offend the people of the house to whom the cat is quite a favorite animal, favorite pet. So himself offended as to offend himself being offended. So when I get offended, I offend others in the process, but I cannot give any reason why I am offended by that particular thing, whether it is a cat or the sound of the bagpipe or whether it is a gaping pig. So in the same way, Shylock says that he cannot also give any particular reason why he has a hatred towards Antonio. He has a deep-rooted hatred towards Antonio, and that is why he is following this unprofitable case against him. Yeah, it is unprofitable because a pound of flesh, he had already said earlier, a pound of flesh is not profitable as it had been, as the flesh of a mutton or a beef or meat. The flesh of a goat or a cow or a sheep. They are profitable because they are edible. But a human flesh, unless a person is a cannibal, a human flesh is unprofitable. So Shylock is following this unprofitable suit against Antonio. Why? Because of the deep-rooted hatred that is in his heart for Antonio. Are you answered? Have you got your answer? Bassanio is now very offended when he hears this. So he says, "This is no answer, thou unfeeling man, to excuse the current of thy cruelty." So, you heartless man, unfeeling man, unfeeling man, this is not a satisfactory answer to excuse your cruelty. I am not bound to please thee with my answers. So today, Shylock, he feels it is my day. So I am not here to make you happy with my answers. I am not compelled to make you happy with my answers. So, do all men kill the things they do not love? So, does it happen that a man must kill something which he does not like? Yeah, I might not like you. But does that mean that I should kill you? No. So, just because someone doesn't like something, it doesn't follow that he should get it killed. There are many things which we don't like, many people whom we don't like, many creatures which we don't like, but it doesn't follow that I have to get that thing killed. Shylock, hates any man the thing he would not kill? So if a man truly hates something, wouldn't he kill that? Bassanio, every offense is not a hate at first. So every fault that is committed, immediately it should not become a cause of hatred. Just because I have done something wrong does not mean that it should be taken as a cause of hatred. So he feels that Antonio has failed to pay the bond, has failed to keep the conditions of the bond. So that doesn't mean that you should hate him and want him to be killed. Actually, he doesn't know that before Antonio has signed the bond also, Shylock has a deep-rooted hatred for Antonio for various reasons, just not breaking the condition of the bond. In Act 1, Scene 3, he had said, if once I get him upon the hip, so if he catches Antonio in a disadvantageous position, he will take his revenge. He had already said that to himself. Audience had heard, not Antonio or Bassanio. What? Wouldst thou have a serpent sting thee twice? So what a nice argument. Bassanio says that just because someone has committed a fault, it should not become a cause of hatred. So he says, oh, would you want the serpent to sting you twice before you take any action against it? Will you allow the snake to sting you twice? Oh, this is his first offense, forgive it. How can I kill him? Let him sting me second time and then I'll kill him. Does anyone say this? No, no one says this. So will you allow a snake to sting you twice? No. So Antonio is really fed up of all this. So he says, I pray you, think you question with the Jew. You may as well go stand upon the beach and bid the main flood bait his usual height. You may as well use question with the wolf why he had made the ewe bleed for the lamb. You may as well forbid the mountain pines to wag their high tops and make no noise when they are threatened with the gusts of wind. You may as well do anything most hard as seek to soften that, than which what's harder, his Jewish heart. Therefore, I do beseech you, make no more offers, use no further means, but with all brief and plain conveniency, let me have judgment and the Jew his will. So Antonio says, it's no. Why are you questioning? Why are you arguing with this Jew? Rather, you can do many impossible things. Try to do impossible things and they might be possible. Like, if you go to the seashore and ask the waves not to rise as high as is usual, means to tell them to reduce their height. You might go to the seashore and tell the waves or the tides to not to rise so high, which is an impossible thing. And yet they might listen to you. You might go to the wolf and ask the wolf why the wolf has made the mother sheep cry for its lamb. That means the wolf has eaten up the lamb. The mother sheep is sad, so you might go and ask the wolf why he did it, and the wolf might feel sorry. You might go to the pine trees on the mountains when the wind blows through them. In A Face in the Dark also, you have read that when through the pine trees the wind passes, there is a strange eerie sound. So you might ask the pine trees not to make that sound. You might do anything most hard as seek to soften that, than which what's harder, his Jewish heart. So you might try to do the hardest thing in the world rather than attempt to do something which is harder. Trying to soften Shylock's Jewish heart, according to Antonio, is harder than the hardest thing. And that is not possible. So I am requesting you, don't make any more offers to the Jew. Don't take any further steps to try to pacify him. But with all in a brief manner, as unceremonially as possible, let me have judgment without any further delay. Let me have judgment and let the Jew have his wish. So let the wishes of the Jew be fulfilled and give me the judgment which I deserve. So now Bassanio, as if he is bargaining. For thy 3,000 ducats, here is 6. Yeah, he has come loaded with money from Portia. So he offers 6,000. Shylock, if every ducat in 6,000 ducats were in 6 parts, and every part a ducat, I would not draw them. I would have my bond. So 6,000 ducats. Every ducat you divide it into 6 parts. And every part has the value of a ducat. Then also I would not expect. That means 6 into 6, 36,000. If you were to offer me 36,000 ducats, then also I would refuse to accept the money. I would go for my pound of flesh. How shall thy hope for mercy, rendering none? So how can you hope for the mercy of God when you don't show mercy to anyone? Shylock, what judgment shall I dread, having doing no wrong? So what judgment should I be afraid of? Because I have done no wrong. If I do wrong, then I would be afraid of God's judgment, and then I can plead to God for mercy. But having done no wrong, why should I be afraid of any judgment? You have among you many a purchased slaves, which like your asses and your mules, dogs and your mules, you use in abject and in slavish parts, because you bought them. Shall I say to you, let them be free, marry them to your heirs? Why sweat they under burdens? Let their beds be made as soft as yours, and let their palates be seasoned with such wines. You will answer, the slaves are ours. So many of you, in those days slavery existed. So many of you have purchased slaves, and you use these slaves not like human beings but like your domestic animals. As you treat your domestic animals, the asses, mules and dogs, you treat the human beings in such a way. Why? Because you have bought them. So if I tell you, why have you kept them imprisoned? Why have you kept them? Why have you made them slaves? Free your slaves? If I tell you, marry them to your heirs, to your sons and your daughters. If I tell you, why are they sweating under the burdens? So let their beds also be made as soft as yours. Give them the same type of food which you enjoy. Will you listen to me? No. You will say the slaves are ours and we will treat them as we wish. So do I answer you, the pound of flesh which I demand of him is dearly bought. It is mine, and I will have it. If you deny me, fie upon your law. There is no force in the decrees of Venice. I stand for judgment. Answer, shall I have it? So he says, in the same way, I answer you that the pound of flesh which I am demanding of Antonio, I have bought it quite at an expensive rate, 3,000 ducats for 1 pound of human flesh. And it is mine, and I am going to have it. Nothing can stop me from having it. If you refuse to give me my due, shame upon your law, fie upon your law. The rules of Venice, they have no force. They don't have any power. I am standing here for judgment, and tell me whether I am going to have it or not. Duke, upon my power, I may dismiss this court unless Bellario, a learned doctor, whom I have sent for to determine this, come here today. So the Duke tells that at least he cannot refuse Shylock, but at least he can dismiss the court today. He has that much power to dismiss the proceedings of the court today. So he has sent for a very noted lawyer, Dr. Bellario, doctor of law, to fight Antonio's case. So unless he comes here today, the Duke might dismiss the proceedings of the court. Salerio, my lord here stays without a messenger with letters from the doctor, new come from Padua. So Salerio says that, my lord, a messenger has come from the doctor and he is standing outside. He has just arrived from Padua. Padua is the place where Dr. Bellario used to live. And remember, he is the cousin of Portia. He is the very same Dr. Bellario to whom Portia has sent Balthazar to bring the notes and the garments. Bring us the letters, call the messenger. Yes, so bring the letters to us and also call the messenger inside. Bassanio. Good cheer, Antonio. What man? Courage yet. The Jew shall have my flesh, blood, bones and all, ere thou shalt lose one drop, for me one drop of blood. So Bassanio is trying to cheer up Antonio. Antonio is in a very sad mood. Bassanio is trying to cheer up. So he is telling that, Antonio, cheer up, be brave, and before you lose one drop of blood for my sake, I will offer the Duke my blood, bones and everything. So in the meantime, what does Shylock do? Just see how irritating it is. He takes out the knife from his girdle. Girdle is the waistband. He takes his knife and he starts sharpening it. Antonio, I am a tainted wether of the flock, meetest for death. So I am the diseased sheep in the flock. So the sheep which is the diseased one, it will die first. So I am more suitable for death, I am more liable for death. The weakest kind of fruit drops earliest to the ground. The weakest fruit drops first to the ground. The one which is the rotten fruit, it drops to the ground first. And so let me. So yes, let me die. You cannot better be employed, Bassanio, than to live still and write mine epitaph. So Bassanio has just now said that before you lose one drop of blood on my account, I will give up everything. I will give my life, my blood, my all that, my bones and flesh and everything before you lose. So he says, no, Bassanio, let me die, because I am like the diseased sheep in the flock, or I am like the rotten fruit in the tree. I am waiting for death, so let me die. Rather, what will you do? You will find a better employment in writing my epitaph. Epitaph is a small poem written on the tomb of a person, of a dead person. So enter Nerissa dressed like a lawyer's clerk. Came you from Padua, from Bellario? So have you come from Dr. Bellario of Padua? So Nerissa bows. From both, my lord. Yeah, I have come from Padua, I have come from Dr. Bellario. Bellario greets your grace. So Dr. Bellario has sent his greetings to you, my lord. And then she presents a letter to the Duke. And in the meantime, Bassanio notices, oh my God, this fellow is sharpening his knife. Why dost thou whet thy knife so earnestly? So why are you sharpening your knife so earnestly? To cut the forfeiture from that bankrupt there. I am sharpening my knife to cut that forfeiture, that 1 pound of flesh from that bankrupt there. He is referring to Antonio. Gratiano, not on thy soul, but on thy soul. There is a pun here, S-O-L-E soul and S-O-U-L soul. The audience wouldn't know. We are scholars, we are reading it, so we know the difference between the two souls. One is the soul of the shoe and the other is the human soul. You have it within you. So Gratiano is telling that it is not on the sole of your shoe but on your immortal soul that you are making your knife keen. That means you are sharpening your knife. He seems to be sharpening his knife on the sole of his shoe. But Gratiano says that you are not sharpening your knife on the sole of your shoe, but you are sharpening it on your immortal soul. But no metal can, no, not the hangman's axe, bear half the keenness of thy sharp envy. Can no prayers pierce thee? So he says that no metal, even the axe of the hangman. The hangman is the one who executes. Executioner's axe also, it cannot be as sharp as your envy or your malice. Your malice is sharper than the axe of the executioner. Aren't there any prayers which can penetrate, which can pierce your heart? No, none that thou hast wit enough to make. No, none that you are intelligent enough to make or clever enough to make. And now this is a very important speech. Gratiano, he lashes out at Shylock. Oh, be thou damned, inexorable dog, and for thy life let justice be accused. Thou almost makest me waver in my faith, to hold opinion with Pythagoras, that souls of animals infuse themselves into trunks of men. For thy currish spirit governed a wolf, who hanged for human slaughter, even from the gallows did his fell soul flee, and whilst thou layest in thy unhallowed dam, infused itself in thee. For thy desires are wolfish, bloody, starved, and ravenous. So Gratiano is very, very furious, and he tells that you obstinate dog, may you be cursed. May justice be blamed for allowing you to live. And seeing you, I have started having doubts in my Christian faith. Christians don't believe in rebirth. And Gratiano, being a Christian, believed in that. But now he starts believing the theory of Pythagoras, which is the transmigration of souls. That means the soul, it can leave one body and go into another and take a rebirth. And the Christians don't believe in rebirth. So transmigration of soul means that souls of animals, sometimes they enter the bodies of human beings. And that is the explanation why they behave like an animal and not like a human being. So earlier Gratiano never believed in it. Why? Because according to the Christian faith there is no rebirth. But now looking at Shylock, he has started having doubts about the Christian faith. And he feels, yes, transmigration of souls might be possible. So what was this principle? The transmigration of soul meant that the souls of souls living in the bodies of animals, many times when the animals died, left the body and entered the human body, and as a result humans behave like animals. And now he tells Shylock that your courage, that means your dog-like spirit, was in the body of a wolf, and this wolf was killed, or rather hanged, for killing human beings. This wolf was put on the gallows for killing human beings, and as the body was being hanged, the body can be killed but not the soul. So what did the soul do? It escaped from the body when the wolf was being hanged. And where did it go and take refuge? It went and took refuge in Shylock's mother's womb. Shylock was at that time unborn. He was in his mother's womb. And Gratiano also calls his mother a bad woman. So he says, unhallowed dam. So you were in your mother's unhallowed womb. Unhallowed. Hallowed means holy. So you were in the body of your bad mother or your vile mother, and this soul of the wolf entered your body, and that is the explanation for your inclinations being like that of a wolf. Bloody, starved, and ravenous. Ravenous means like that of a raven. Till thou canst rail the seal from off my bond, thou but offendest thy lungs to speak so loud. Repair thy wit, good youth, or it will fall to cureless ruin. I here stand for law. So Shylock keeps on, he is quite amused at the raving and ranting of Gratiano. So he says, until your words, they have the power to remove the legal seal from my bond. You are only wasting your efforts. You are only putting a pressure on your lungs uselessly. So try to cultivate a better sense of humor. Try to cultivate a better way of speaking. Otherwise, it will be ruined completely. I am here standing for the law. In the meantime, the Duke has read this letter, and he wants the letter to be read to the whole court. The whole court should listen to what this letter says. This letter from Bellario doth commend the young and learned doctor to our court. Where is he? So this is the recommendation letter sent by Dr. Bellario. See, anyone and everyone won't be allowed to fight such a serious case. So Dr. Bellario has sent a recommendation letter which will allow Portia to fight Antonio's case. So the Duke is asking, where is that young and learned lawyer whom Dr. Bellario has recommended in this letter? Nerissa, he attended here hard by to know your answer whether you will admit him. So he is waiting close by and he wants to know your answer whether you are going to allow him or not. Duke, with all my heart, yeah, I will allow him in a most willing manner. Some 3 or 4 of you go give him courteous conduct to this place. Some 3 or 4 of you go and bring him in to this court in a polite manner. Meantime, the court shall hear Bellario's letter. In the meantime, we will hear Bellario's letter. So, we will end here for today, and I will do 2 more parts to finish this. It is the lengthiest scene. So, if you have liked this video, don't forget to press the like button and wait for my next video regarding the second part of it. Bye for the time being.